All right, well, I'll try and take it a little more upbeat from there. So, so I'm here. Welcome, grade 9 students and parents. I'm here to give you some more details about the Explorer program. And to follow with this presentation, I've asked the communications department to send an email that kind of presents all of this information as well. So you'll have it in written form, and it should be going out either this evening or tomorrow. So you'll get all of these as notes that will come to your inbox tomorrow. So the Explorer program is continuation of our objectives in the outdoor education program to foster interpersonal skills and to get the boys into different situations so that we get them out of their normal kind of day-to-day communication patterns with certain people in certain cultures, and get them to a completely foreign environment where that might disrupt some of those patterns and kind of push some of the boundaries and kind of challenge some of those skills. As well, it gets them some time for reflection, some intrapersonal skills to kind of take them away from their hectic daily lives at St. George's School and give them some time for repose and just to think about things. As well, we're going through some of the most beautiful environments in Canada, in British Columbia. So we hope, as part of our curriculum, that we'll be able to instill a sense of environmental stewardship and appreciation for the nature and just the areas that we're sending trips through. And this also acts as kind of one of the key elements of the outdoor skills progression, begun in grade 8 when the boys went to Camp Squia. They would go for an overnight and dip their toes first into the pond of outdoor education. And then this year, they'll be going on backcountry trips, which I'll describe to you. And then in grade 10, it will go even further. And they'll be expected to use the skills and the experience that they gain this year and kind of build upon it and really kind of push themselves to the next year. So this is a valuable building experience here as part of the larger curriculum. So I'll take you through the schedule just as it pertains to the Explorer program. So today, I will be giving you some information about the trip choices, as well as just some packing information and so forth, just to kind of generally prepare. And after this meeting, Mr. Healy would like to speak to parents, while we'll ask the boys to go outside, and we'll be printing off some login information. And the boys will then take that login information, log in at the outdoor education section of the Saints website, and they'll make their trip selection. And I'll kind of go into that process a little further, in a little more detail in a while. Our next date is so Monday, September 21st. On or before that date, the final trip selection should be emailed out to the boys. So the boys will receive their information package detailing, giving them some more information about their trips, as well as a permission form for parents to sign and return. And may I ask that just make sure, parents and students, that your emails are up to date so that you receive the information in a timely manner. Given my experience last year, there are few worse feelings than not having received your trip information a week after everyone else has, and they're all getting prepared. The next important date is Tuesday, September 29th. Meet the Instructor Night happens right here, again at the same time, between 6 and 8 p.m. I'll be giving kind of some last-minute advice on packing to the boys at that time, and just general roundup information one more time, as well as some more precise dates and times in terms of some of our practice sessions that we'll be going through before the trips. As well, that night, the instructors will be here to go through kind of a pack check with all the boys to make sure that they, as Mr. Healy so eloquently highlighted, that they need the appropriate gear to be comfortable and to feel successful on this trip. So the instructors will be coming here to take the boys through individual sessions to go through the route plan and to look at what gear the boys are planning to bring and maybe make some suggestions and alterations to that, as well as maybe think about if we might be able to provide some gear from the outdoor ed department as well. At this point, too, the boys will receive their student trip handbook, which will kind of detail the curriculum that we'll be going through on that given trip. And our next series of dates are our trip dates. And so October 4th through the 8th or the 13th through the 17th are our trip dates for this year. On the first day of the boys' trip, they'll arrive at school, and for the majority of trips anyhow, is they'll arrive at school at 8 a.m., and they should be prepared for their trip on that day. They should be prepared to go out, they should be dressed as they would if they were going out on their backcountry trip. But instead, what they'll do that day is it will be a kind of a day trip. They'll be going, for paddling trips, they'll be going to False Creek to prepare with rescue practices. And for hiking trips, they'll be going through some packing techniques as well as adjusting their backpacks and just generally preparing themselves for setting up a good camp in kind of a more alpine environment. On the day of the trip, students will arrive at a variety of different times, and I'll be able to kind of go further into that at the Meet the Instructor night. The reason for the variety of times is that it's quite a big undertaking to send out half of the grade 9s at any given time. And so we kind of stagger the trips, so we'll ask some boys to arrive quite early in the morning, I'd say 6:30 maybe, other boys to arrive at 7, other boys at 8, and they'll kind of take off at different times. Just to avoid gridlock in the field house area. And when the boys return from their trips, they'll return in the late afternoon or early evening. And in addition to their return, they'll be asked to clean the group gear and just to make sure everything is tidy and put away. So I'll try to factor in this cleaning time into the arrival times that I state to parents. However, if things don't go quite as quickly as I anticipate, that may take a little while, and I'll ask your indulgence, parents, as we're just trying to teach the boys to stay together and everyone do their share and that kind of thing. So we'll let the boys go at the time when they've kind of cleaned up everything and the instructor is satisfied that they've been able to do that, and they've given a debrief and kind of a quick talk about how they thought the trip went, and everyone's had a chance to have their say. So in that, the Explore program is split into 2 weeks. We split it such that classes can continue in the interim. So while half of the boys are out, classes do continue. And so please ensure that boys, you're coming to school and you're attending classes during those times, because that's important to be able to get. A grade 9 is a fully packed year curriculum-wise, so it's an important year to make sure that we get as much class time as possible. And so I'll go through the trip types just generally before I get into a more specific detailing of how each one goes and its location. So there will be approximately two canoe trips for each trip week. One option is for 3 days, another is for 5 days. There will be 2 kayaking trips for each week. One is for 3 days, one is for 4 days. And there will be several hiking trips, and there's a 3-day hiking option and a 5-day hiking option. So with our trips, we grade our trips such that in terms of level of challenge, so that the boys can adequately challenge themselves and make determinations upon how comfortable they are in this environment and how much they want to challenge themselves. So we have graded the 3-day canoe trip as an easier trip. The reason for that is they're relatively short days in terms of distance traveled. As well, there's not a lot of portaging on this canoe trip, so there's little kind of carrying of loads for any great distance other than kind of just up to the campsite. So that's how we've graded it as easy based on the distance and just like the amount of carrying required. So our moderate trips are the 2 kayaking trips, both the 3-day and the 4-day, as well as the 3-day backpacking trip. And the reason for that categorization is because it's medium length, as well as and even for the shorter trips, there's more gear carrying involved. So the kayaking trips, you'll be carrying boats to and from the shore, and on the backpacking trip, there is some considerable elevation gain. So you'll be carrying everything that you have with you on your back up to your next campsite, however much elevation that is in a given day. And so the trips that are rated difficult are our 5-day hiking trip along the Juan de Fuca Trail and our 5-day canoe trip on the Sayward Canoe Circuit. And the reason for that rating is because they are longer days in distance, and for hiking the Juan de Fuca, you will be carrying 5 days worth of food, 5 days worth of gear on your back, and for the canoe trip, you'll be portaging up to 2 kilometers with the same, all of your gear and food for that entire time. There's a further progression, which is trips. Don't let the red throw you off. It's that challenging option is part of the progression. It's part of the progression in grade 10. So those boys who feel that once they've done maybe a moderate or difficult trip in grade 9, and they feel, I want to go a little bit further afield, I'd like to go a little bit further into the backcountry, and I feel like I can carry 7 days worth of gear for my extended hike. These are the trips that we'll ask the boys to choose in their grade 10 year, if they want to take on that level of challenge. So I'll now go into a little bit more detail talking about the individual trips. So the 3-day canoe trip is a canoe trip on Pitt Lake, and students travel in canoes, about 2 or 3 to a canoe. And during their pre-trip day, as I said, all of the paddling trips will go to False Creek, and they'll do rescue scenarios as well as just an introduction to paddling with their instructors. And it's a very scenic area, very lovely, and but not a lot of portaging. And so the 5-day canoe trip is in the Sayward Canoe Loop. It's a 55-kilometer loop, and it involves both paddling and portaging. And so again, this is rated as a little bit more challenging because the boys can choose their level of challenge as well within these. So they can choose to tandem carry their canoes, or they can try soloing it for the first time with maybe some assistance from an instructor. The kayaking trips, the 3-day kayaking trip takes place in Indian Arm, departs from Deep Cove, and the students travel in tandem kayaks always. And again, they do a pre-trip day where they learn wet exits from their kayaks in False Creek, as well as just basic paddling and packing technique, because packing a kayak can be an involved process, as I've learned. Again, just a lovely area to paddle through, as the entire Indian Arm is surrounded by parks. And the 4-day kayaking trip takes place. The boys depart from just south of Nanaimo, and they weave their way through the Gulf Islands. And again, they travel in tandem kayaks and take part in the wet exit training and whatnot at False Creek, as well as the paddling workshop. And this is rated a little bit more on the difficult side for the boys, in the reason that Gulf Islands are slightly more exposed to wind and a little bit and currents, so it's just tends to be like a little bit of a harder paddle sometimes. And our backpacking trips, we will make the determination based on weather at the time, whether they'll be going to an area close to Garibaldi or if they'll be going to Golden Ears. And they'll hike along established trails that involve a significant uphill, like a pretty decent uphill, in a variety of weather conditions. So if it's raining, they'll still go. And the Discovery boys and I were up at Garibaldi just the other day, and there was some snow up at the Alpine. So it is a possibility. So again, going back to Mr. Healy's comments, it pays to be prepared with adequate clothing. And during their pre-trip day, they'll again just practice packing their packs, as a well-packed pack can mean the difference between comfort and discomfort. So as you can see, a variety of different weather conditions. It can be sunny and nice and warm with maybe some snow just kind of like scattered along the trails, but it is a beautiful area, especially both the Garibaldi hike and the other. And the Juan de Fuca hike is the Juan de Fuca Trail on the southwest coast of Vancouver Island. It's about a 40-kilometer hike, and just a wide variety of weather conditions at this time of year. You can experience some rain and some mud, or just beautiful weather. And while there is rain and mud sometimes, It is just an extremely scenic area. I did my first coastal hike last year, and it's just gorgeous. There are often whales seen, as well as just old-growth forests. You make your way through old-growth forest and see waterfalls and just beautiful sunsets. It's amazing there. So we'll talk about food. Food on these trips, we pack it all. That's the good news. So boys turn up, and there's a set menu for them, and it's all provided. It's not packaged meals. We provide meals that the boys will have to assist in some cooking. Building those skills, boys. Building those skills. And as well, we try and build in vegetables, fruits, things like that. So a healthy menu, not simply again just like packaged meals or just pastas. So please, that's all the more important reason to please go online to the parent portal and make sure that your son's health information is up to date. We use that information to help us to prepare the menus. For the entire trip. So please, if you haven't gone on in a little while, just to have a look at what's on there or haven't updated it, please do so, just so that we can have accurate information. Because that will allow us to make sure everybody has enough to eat and everybody feels good and comfortable. So as mentioned, the boys will take part in the cooking. It'll be supervised by instructors, but we'll ask the boys to take part based on their level of comfort and whatnot. The first meal that we will provide is the lunch on the first day of the actual out trip. So for the preparation day, we'll ask you to kind of pack a lunch for the boys. And please send them on the first day of the trip having had breakfast, so they're ready, feeling strong, ready to go for the day. So I've already really touched upon this. Please make sure medical information is up to date. And I will be here after the meeting as well. You can reach me by phone or email anytime, just to discuss any concerns you might have. And in terms of transportation to and from our tripping areas, the boys will be transported by school St. George's buses or charter buses, driven by professional drivers or outdoor education staff who are experienced driving these type of vehicles. And the equipment that we'll be using. St. George's will be providing the tents, the boats, the cooking gear, all of the nitty-gritty accoutrement, the real gear of outdoor stuff. So really the boys need to provide their own clothing. So they just need to be prepared for themselves. And so each trip will be provided a packing list. And so we'll ask you to go through that in detail, making sure that the boys have layers, and that means layering your clothing means layers that can easily go on and off to adjust to the weather. So having a light jacket that you can put on if it gets a little bit colder and quite easily take off and kind of stuff in the top of your pack. Cotton kills looks rather sinister, but it's one of our kind of key phrases in outdoor ed, mainly because cotton doesn't insulate the best when it's dry, but it really doesn't insulate well when it's wet. So while boys, I know you love that awesome cotton hoodie you have, it's not appropriate for this one. And I know a couple of you are going to try and sneak it in at the Meet the Instructor night. I know, but try and avoid it. Do your best. Equipment and clothing, the big items. Basically, we're looking at sleeping bag and sleeping pad to make sure you're prepared for sleeping, as well as hydration, making sure the boys have adequate water bottles. Containers enough for 2 liters of water is what we recommend. Sun care in terms of a hat and sunscreen, and a variety of clothing for daytime and evening. Really, the boys want to be prepared to get sweaty, get maybe a little bit wet or dirty during the day, and then have a comfortable, dry set of clothing that they can put on in the evening so that they can just be comfortable as they sleep. The packing list will go into more detail about this, but it's a general guideline to have daytime clothes and evening clothes. To get more specific about the key items, the sleeping bag is a major one, and the sleeping bag that we recommend is a synthetic fill bag rated to about -7, as that should take care of keep everyone comfortable in pretty much any weather for these trips. And Mountain Equipment Co-op is simply the one that we kind of display here, but there are a variety of different brands. Again, if you have any questions on purchasing a sleeping bag, please feel free to contact me, and I can give you some direction. Another key item is a stuffed sack for that sleeping bag. The reason being, especially kayak trips and hiking trips, sleeping bags, the bigger they are, the more space they take up in your pack means the less room there is for food and other gear. So compactable sleeping bags in a stuffed sack with the compression sacks down the sides to reduce their size really do an effective job at limiting the space taken up by the sleeping bags and allow just more space for everything else. A sleeping pad is the next item. For two reasons. It just increases comfort when sleeping outside. As well, it provides an additional layer of insulation from the ground, as the ground can kind of like wick your heat away from your body. So a good sleeping pad is excellent. I went for a number of years, and I resisted buying one of these, and I can't even explain why I did after I got one. It was an amazing purchase. And the next piece of gear is rain gear. Jacket and pants, absolutely, both are fully necessary for comfort. Oh, I passed it. So both the rain gear, jacket, and pants are necessary. Waterproof, breathable fabrics are ideal with taped seams. Taped seams meaning you can't see the stitching when you look at it from the inside. And the difference between a lot of the St. George's athletics outdoor kind of jackets and things like that, and athletics pants that the boys would have that may seem to be water resistant, is that they're meant for being outside for the day and then being able to go back inside at the end of the day. Whereas waterproof, breathable fabrics with taped seams are meant for people who are going to be outside all day, and they are really kind of a bulletproof system to keep you dry. And in terms of activity-specific equipment for the hiking trips, you'll want a 65 to 80 liter backpack and appropriately sized. That's an important factor for backpacks in that they can come in small, medium, and large, or kind of short, regular, or regular, tall. So please go to whatever store if you're thinking of going to taking on a hiking trip. Please go to the store and ask the personnel there to help you size it out, as you can adjust the back oftentimes, and as well just the size of the backpack to begin with can really affect the comfort. For hiking trips as well, hiking boots are a necessity. We will require hiking boots on these trips. The reason being, they increase comfort, two, increase stability, and avoid injury. So they need to be broken in prior to the trip. Again, the Disco Boys and I went on a Garibaldi hike. You can ask some of them how it feels to go on a hike without broken-in boots. It's not pleasant. So please make sure they're broken in. Before your trip, you can feel free to wear your hiking boots around the school for the week to break them in. That's our little, we slide that in under the dress code for the week. So, and our next, for kayaking trips, dry sacks are essential. We say 10 liter to 20 liter, but 5 liter to 20 liter, really. And the reason we indicate 20 liters as the maximum is because these bags have to fit into fairly small compartments within the kayak, and the smaller the dry bag, so a 10 liter, there's just more options in order to fit around things and fit around equipment, and so those smaller dry bags rather than like a 30 or a 40 liter really gives us more options in terms of gear packing. They need to be fully waterproof. So some of the hiking and lightweight dry bags that you can get at MEC or other stores are great for hiking because they'll keep rain and whatnot, just drops of water off of your belongings. But these bags that you see up here are rubberized and they're fully waterproof. So these bags can sit in a container of water and the inside contents will not be affected. So these are the ones we really recommend. And footwear for kayaking, again, going along the theme of day clothing and evening or night clothing. So we'll be asking for sandals or water shoes, shoes that can get wet because the boys will need to be able to step in the water with their kayaks during the day, and just sturdy shoes for around camp that can be dry, that they'll just keep dry, or rubber boots, because that will allow them to walk into the water a little bit to maybe do some hand washing and things like that. For canoe trips, the same, the dry bags. Again, the smaller dry bag, 20 liters is really the maximum you'd want to use, just because, again, you have to fit these dry bags into one of our larger canoe packs, and multiple boys' things will go into one of the larger canoe packs. So the smaller the dry bags, the just easier it is to fit and get all the equipment into the bag that's required. And when you bring, for canoe trips, when you bring your dry bags, please bring them in a duffel bag or another backpack, as what you'll be doing is bringing those bags and you'll then take the dry bags out of those and put them into the canoe packs, the communal canoe packs, and leaving the backpack either in the truck or back at the field house to be able to transport your dry bags at the end of the trip. And canoeing footwear is very akin to what you would use for kayaking: day shoes and night shoes, wet shoes that you'll be able to step into the water with, and running shoes for the evening that it will remain dry and comfortable. And emergency management. So we do our best to staff our trips with instructors who are trained in wilderness first aid and who are well experienced in the given activity, as well as well certified. We also carry with us a variety of emergency equipment, communications equipment, first aid supplies, and animal protection. And we recognize, though, that as Mr. Healy said, we think that these experiences are extremely valuable to these boys' development, and we recognize that there is risk inherent in taking these boys out of the classroom to anywhere that we go. But we feel that by hiring experienced and well-trained staff, and by knowing the challenges posed by the environment in which the boys will be tripping, as well as providing adequate and well looked after gear, we mitigate these risks and provide them an excellent experience. So if you have any questions, once you have received your information package and which identifies the specific risks still on that trip, or if you have any concerns, please feel free to give me a call and speak to me, and I can kind of take you through any of our specific precautions that we're taking. One element of this trip is that this trip will be assessed in the form of a comment that will appear on the boys' report card. Yeah, it's true. And so the boys will be assessed in terms, not in kind of a letter grade, but they'll be assessed in terms of their attitude and effort, the outdoor skills progression, and just generally the initiative they take on the trip and the amount of kind of themselves they put into the trip. And so the instructors will collaborate at the end of the trip and create an evaluation comment that will appear on the boys' report card. And just for any boys that are interested in applying to the Discovery 10 program, and I'll describe that in a minute if you're unfamiliar, but any boys who are interested in applying to Discovery 10, one of the first things that we do look at when applications are received is the Explorer comment. Because it just gives us a good idea of what of the boys, again, initiative and how they're progressing their outdoor skills. To give you a little bit of description about Discovery 10, it is a full year cohort program. We select 20 boys from applicants, and it's intensive, 140 plus days in the backcountry. And so we take the curriculum, we take the standard grade 10 curriculum, and we take it outdoors. And really allow the boys to immerse themselves, and it is experiential learning at its finest. And the application process begins in the spring, usually March or April. So once the boys are assigned to a trip, they'll receive that email that includes the information package with timing and dates that will detail their specific trip, as well as a packing list and the consent form. So we'll ask parents to please read in a detailed way the consent form and sign off on each individual activity that's inherent in the trip. And registration, we'll be asking the boys when Mr. Healy is speaking with the parents. We'll ask the boys to come outside and join us to get their login codes for their registration. So boys who are here this evening will get priority in the selection of their trip in trip selection. Also, just another consideration for these trips is the Duke of Edinburgh Award is a service program where an award that recognizes service, skill development, physical fitness, and outdoor exploration. The Explorer 9 program qualifies for the outdoor exploration portion of the Duke of Ed Award, and the students must be in grade 9 to enroll in this program. And there's a great deal of information available in the trip handbook. The boys can apply for this award, but they must follow up with their trip instructor and just voice their desire to take part in this award if they do want it. So I encourage you guys, if you're kind of intrigued by the Duke of Ed and maybe have heard about it, read up on it. You can ask me about it, and I can give you a little bit more information. But start looking into it and considering whether you want to take part. As well, if this program piques your interest a little bit in the outdoors, I'll be very pleased. But as well, there are other programs running in the school that can help to get you outdoors, one of which is the Summit Club. Summit Club is a student-led club that identifies outdoor excursions and programs that they like to participate in, and it's open to anyone in the senior school. So please have your eyes and ears open for announcements as we run trips a couple times each term. So thanks very much, everyone. That is the information I have this evening for the Explorer 9 program. Boys, I will ask you show them the website. Yeah, I'll take them through the website. Certainly. So I'll before we go, I'll take you on a quick tour of the website. Thank you very much. Still allow me to log on here. I'm not getting Wi-Fi in here.
I'm in the one called Video System. It's showing up.
What's my password? Oh, there we
See
go.
if it'll go now.
Yes.
You have to just drag the whole thing to the side.
Try dragons again, see if we get.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It's about 10 a day.
They say that it's there's like report card thing. Does that count toward your average?
Nope, it's just a comment. That's not happening. Great.
I'm on this side. Over here, over here.
Sorry.
Before they all disappear.
Yeah. All right, boys. Hey, gentlemen, can you please have a seat? We're going to take you through a tour of how to register for your trips. So while you decide which ones you're going to select, just we'll take you through so you can see exactly how to go about that. There we go.
It's all you.
Okay, where's the?
You're on this your screen over here right now. We can work out that side.
Okay. Where's my? Where's my cursor? Okay. Okay, gentlemen. If I may have your attention again, I'm sorry for the wait, but here we go. So, if you will navigate to the St. George's website, go to senior school, and down to outdoor education. Outdoor education, go to programs. And you'll see each grade program, 8, 9, 10 in the senior school. Click on grade 9. And click here to register for the Explorer program. Nice and easy, there you go. So student number, enter your student number. I'm going to go ahead and do a little test run here. So there we go. Last name. Yeah. Oh no, never mind. All right, and the login code is randomly generated. Okay, so as you enter here, guys, you'll see all the trip options. So you'll have canoeing 3 days, canoeing 5 days, hiking, kayaking, and kayaking. So you're going to indicate whether something is your first choice or your second choice. Just for your information, please don't enter more than one thing as your first choice. Simply because that means that we take them both as equal, and if you, that means we'll choose between the two. We'd really rather you indicate your strongest preference so that we know what your actual preference is. All right? As well, please don't only choose one. By only choosing one, that doesn't mean that you will necessarily get that choice. Okay? If we have space in it, we may be able to accommodate, but if we don't have space on the trip, we might not, and then we'll just assign you to a different one. Okay? We've been very successful in being able to get boys their first choice, but we cannot guarantee it. So please make sure you really consider these options as you go ahead and make your registration. Okay? So thanks, boys, and please just make sure at the end After you've clicked on your choices, please click Save Trip Selection, just to make sure that you've got it logged. If you just click on the buttons, it will not register. Okay, so please make sure you scroll down to the bottom of the page to make sure that your trip registration options have been received. Okay? Excellent. Thanks very much, gentlemen. And again, students, we'll see you outside, and Mr. Healy will speak to the parents.